The invitation arrived folded wrong, like it had been opened and closed too many times. The paper creased soft as cloth, and when Daniel Reyes held it between his fingers, he felt the weight of it more than the words. Celebration of life, Sunday, 4 p.m. It was for Martin Hale, his boss, the man who had died 3 weeks ago in a crash that still didn't feel real. Daniel stood in his narrow kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound, and wondered what kind of person shows up to a party thrown by the widow of the man who just fired him by accident simply by dying. Daniel was a single dad to an 8-year-old girl named Sophia, whose laughter still surprised him because it survived things he hadn't. Since Martin's death, the company had gone quiet, paychecks paused, promises suspended in careful corporate language. Daniel had been a project manager, loyal and invisible, the kind of employee you only notice when something goes wrong. Martin had noticed him once years ago after Daniel missed a deadline because Sophia had been in the hospital. Martin hadn't yelled. He'd sat beside Daniel and said, "Family first, deadlines can wait." Daniel had carried those words like a passport through the years, so when the invitation came, Daniel felt torn. He didn't belong among catered smiles and sympathy hugs. He didn't have the right clothes, or the money for a gift, or the emotional room to perform gratitude while worrying about rent. Still, Sophia looked up at him from the table where she was coloring and asked, "Are we going, Papa?" Her eyes were hopeful in a way that made his chest ache. "It's important to say thank you," she added, as if she understood more than he had said. They arrived late, Daniel's shirt ironed with too much steam, Sophia's hair braided neatly. The house was large, warm with light and voices. Laughter drifted through the open doors, and for a moment Daniel considered turning around. He felt small, like an intruder carrying grief and bills in his pockets. But Sophia took his hand and pulled him forward. Inside, memories hung in the air like perfume. Photos of Martin smiled from frames, younger, older, laughing, serious. His wife, Eleanor, stood near the center of the room, greeting people with a strength that looked practiced and a kindness that felt real. When she saw Daniel, her eyes softened in recognition. "Daniel," she said, touching his arm, "I'm so glad you came." Her voice held no obligation, only warmth. He swallowed his rehearsed condolences and managed a quiet, "He was a good man." They spoke briefly. Eleanor asked about Sophia, knelt to her level, listened as if time had slowed. Then she excused herself, and Daniel was left holding a paper plate of food he didn't taste, surrounded by conversations about memories he only half shared. He felt the familiar pressure behind his eyes. This wasn't his world anymore. As the afternoon deepened, Eleanor tapped a glass and asked for attention. The room stilled. She spoke about love and loss, about how Martin believed people were the truest measure of success. Then she did something unexpected. She asked everyone to write down a story of kindness they had witnessed from Martin, no matter how small. Pens scratched. People smiled and cried quietly. Daniel stared at the blank card in his hand, then wrote about the day Martin told him family came first. When Eleanor collected the cards, she read some aloud. Laughter rippled. Tears followed. Then she paused, holding Daniel's card. She read it slowly. The room grew silent. "I didn't know this," she said, voice catching. "Thank you for sharing it." She looked at Daniel and something passed between them, recognition perhaps or resolve. After the party, as guests filtered out, Eleanor asked Daniel to stay. Sophia sat on the steps with a cookie while the adults talked. Eleanor led Daniel to a quiet room where Martin's study remained untouched. "Martin talked about you," she said gently. "He admired your dedication." "I know things have been hard since he passed." Daniel nodded, unable to speak. Then she surprised him again. She explained that she had decided to fund a small scholarship and emergency support program in Martin's name for employees facing hardship. "But I need someone who understands what that means," she said. "Someone who lives it." She offered Daniel a role, not charity but work with purpose, a salary, stability, trust. Daniel felt the room tilt. He thought of late nights, of Sophia asleep on the couch, of prayers whispered into darkness. He thought of Martin and how kindness echoes. "I don't know what to say," he whispered. "Say yes," Eleanor smiled, "and help me make this matter." That night, walking home with Sophia, the air felt lighter. Sophia skipped, crumbs on her dress. "Papa," she said, "I think Mama would be happy today." Daniel looked up at the stars he hadn't noticed in months and felt something loosen inside him. He realized then that kindness doesn't end when a life does. It changes hands. It waits for someone brave enough to carry it forward. And in that quiet understanding, Daniel found not just hope, but a future shaped by the simple, powerful truth that showing up, even when you feel you don't belong, can change everything.